Well. Is this thing on? Check. 1, 2. Yeah, it looks like it's working. I ought to have the audio meter right up there where I can see it. I'll work on that. So welcome, Tom Eagle, and everyone else that's here early. Let's check our YouTube feed and make sure we're streaming. And our Facebook feed. Yep. Okay. That looks good. So, and it's really neat to see, and it catches me off guard sometimes, that the latency between the time I say it and the time the internet processes it and spits it out on the other end over the last year, I guess, has really dropped. It's really cool. Well, good afternoon, sir. Good to see you. Glad to have you. I guess you're on lunch break or about to be. Hello, Marie. Welcome, my dear. Good to see you. How's the knee? I'm fixing to go into the knife for the knee in January. It was supposed to happen in the end of August, but it got postponed due to COVID. And Sandy and I decided on Monday to go get an antibody test and to see if we had any antibodies. Lots of jokes in that one, I know. And so we did, and we both have antibodies. I have 1,000 and something, and she's got 60 and something. We're still not sure what it all means. Oh, the back. I'd forgotten about the back. I am sorry. That's no fun. Well, my hope is that the back goes the way of the knee. Good afternoon, sir. Good to see you. Glad to have you. Yes, indeedy. Hope you guys are making your NAB reservations as we speak. That's going to be a great and wonderful reunion, only matched by the reunion in heaven. That's going to be a reunion. Holy cow. Hello, George Price. Good to see you. Glad to have you. Welcome, sir. Honored to have George Price. Was the one that helped me understand vMix decades ago, George, back when we were teenagers. And that Midwestern accent and the way he explained how vMix did inputs really helped me understand it. So well done, sir. George was our live streamer of the year last year, by the way. Marie says, I saw Sandy's in the Christmas spirit, but something about a chocolate advent. Yeah, that would be Sandy. Yeah, generally, an advent calendar has one window that you open on the calendar for each day of the month between December 1st and December 24th, Christmas Eve. And a chocolate advent calendar has a piece of chocolate that you would get for every day. It's not anything Christian necessarily, but it is for those chocolate folks. Yes, Sandy saw that on Facebook that somebody said on like December 4th that it was only 3 days to Christmas according to their advent calendar. Oh, that was good. That was good. That was good. Rich is, when is NAB again? Can't keep up. April, Rich. It's around the 17th. I know that's one of the days. Let's see. April, I think it starts on the 7th. I think the trade show starts on the 17th. 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th. But I could be wrong. It could be the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. But the trade show starts on a Sunday. The conference itself starts on the day before the trade show. But the trade show is the only thing I pay attention to. So, I'm not a very good NABer. Of course, I'm not an official. I ought to join the NAB. That's what I ought to do. Hello, Ed Horn. Glad to have you. Good to see you. So yeah, we'll get on a calendar here and figure out what those dates are, so that we know what NAB is. Because this one may be one that everybody can come to. Maybe the new Pfizer recovery drug is out there. What is it called? Provid or something like that. So that should help curb the flow, especially if it can be affordable. It hadn't even been peer reviewed yet, so we don't know. But the initial findings are very positive, that it's 89% effective within 5 days at knocking COVID out of your system. The question is whether it's going to be a $700 for a 5-day treatment or $25 for a 5-day treatment. We'll see. But it's been fun to follow some doctors on YouTube as they talk about how these things different works, and that this particular one is a protease inhibitor. Don't ask me to explain the biology behind it or the chemistry, because that's not my strong suit. But it was very interesting to see the lecture. I'll try to post a note. Excuse me. On it. I held the button down and that didn't turn it off. My apologies there. I've got a sneeze button here. It's on my X-Keys XK80. But apparently it is set to turn it off upon the release of the button, not upon the press of the button. So there you go. There you go. Yeah, we'll see how the Pfizer pills do. Of course, at least here in the U.S., the vaccine has been no charge, covered under insurance or tab picked up by the government, with millions and millions and millions of doses done. A little disappointed that the vaccine, apparently they're recommending a fourth booster, not a fourth booster, but a fourth shot as a booster. For those that have had 3 already, they're finding that it tends to fade down to about 30 to 50% effective after about 3 months. So it's kind of like not getting an annual flu shot, but getting a quarterly flu shot. So Marie's going to get the 3rd booster shot this winter, and you got the Pfizer. Okay. The Pfizer seems to be the one that has had the least problems. I know the J&J got pulled for a bit, and that the Moderna is running into some bumps, and haven't heard much about the AstraZeneca. Not sure where that one really is. But, is it better to get a vaccine or to get a treatment? It's probably better to get the vaccine. but having had the disease, the virus, apparently my natural immunity is really high. Just had it tested this week. So I need to get some help interpreting the tests, but it was pretty close to off the charts in terms of the number of antibodies that are kicking around in my body. I wish there was a way that we could turn that into a vaccine card, because the vaccine is only good for, 3 months or 6 months, and you had your vaccine 9 months ago. Does that still mean your card is good? That's not very accurate. Very accurate. Anyway, didn't mean to get into this subject. Hello, Michael Quest. Glad to have you, sir. Marie didn't get a choice. She got what they got. Yep. Michael got the Pfizer a month ago. Very good. Very good, sir. Very good. Very good. Yep. Oh, by the way, the QR code here, if you're wondering, will take you to the website for Just Giving, where you can make a donation in Martin Steed's name to WellMade, that group for disabled folks that Martin worked very closely with and loved them, and they loved him. And so you can honor our friend by making a donation. Doesn't matter the size. It's just the 5, 10, 20, 100 people were able to honor him. I think that's the difference. And I think that would mean a lot to his partner, Kat, and their kids. So we'll see. Yep. Okay, we got about 2 minutes left here. Today's going to be an interesting show, as you can tell, or maybe you couldn't tell from the intro or from the warm-up graphic. Welcome, Jim. Good to see you. Glad to have you. We are toying with this idea of letting Streaming Idiots produce the Tom Studio show. We'll see. I would like to get a little bit more into the touchy-feely of the gear, because that's for me, that's where the fun is. vMix too, but all the gear that has to do, everything that has to do with live streaming. So that's what I'm looking forward to. So today we're going to play with the PTZ Optics camera, the 30X, which I have one that has not had the new firmware put on it. So we're going to do that and just have a look-see. So with the counter running down, oh, you can't see the counter because I moved it. Yeah, well, the counter's running down. 30 seconds to the show. Anyway. Yes. So let's push the pink button, shall we? And see what happens. Here we go. The pink button worked. Ta-da! Oh, I've got a button for that. I love it. I love it. Welcome. So glad you are here today. So glad I'm here today. I'm Tom Sinclair. This is Streaming Idiots, and we're kind of in the alpha stage of, welcome, Peter. Glad to have you. We're in the alpha stage of either a new series or a new show. Haven't really decided yet. Gonna see how it went. And what we're going to do is something called Tom Studio, where we talk about gear and live streaming and all the things to do with that. And it's a shift a little bit on Streaming Idiots, and more intended to help those of you that are putting together studios, just see what this crazy guy has used in his studios over the years. So we'll just have to see. Welcome, Otis. Glad you're here. If you can't be here on time, just show up when you can. Otis and I met back at NAB back in 2015. Or no, 16. That's when it was. 16 for the very first time, because that's when we did the first Streaming Idiots meetup. Or was that 17? I'll have to get it straight. I've got a koozie around here somewhere that tells me. I think maybe it was 17. Yeah, 17, 18, and then we didn't have 19 or 20. Right. Something like that. Anyway, don't. I don't want to bore you with the details because I don't remember the details. Anyway, pointing out just a few things here. The QR code over here is a QR code that will take you, if you take your phone and you put it on camera and you put it on that QR code. You can't do it now because you may be watching me on your phone. 2018. Thank you, Otis. That was great. Yeah, your wife won a book in the giveaway, I think. Anyway, the QR code here, you can scan it with your phone and it'll take you to a website called Just Giving. And there's a page on the Just Giving website that the QR code takes you to that is a donation page to an outfit called Madewell, which is an organization that works with disabled people. And Martin Steed, our dear friend who died several weeks ago, really did like working with the folks at Madewell, and they liked having him. And we thought it would be, I think I'm not sure exactly who set this up, but I know Rudy had his hand in it. But it's basically it's a like a GoFundMe site. And so if you knew Martin, or even if you didn't know him, if you would like to honor the memory of one of our friends and brothers in live streaming, that would be a great thing to do. Just, go to that QR code, make a donation. I think it's in British pounds, but, whatever you feel comfortable. It doesn't have to be a lot. That's the thing. It would be better. I think it would be better for his partner, Kat, to see that 100 or 200 of Martin's live streaming friends made a donation, regardless of the amount. Hello, Michael Graves. Glad to have you. And so the idea is that we get just a lot of folks doing it. And I think that'll be a comfort to the family and to the folks at Madewell. So that's what the QR code is, and it'll hang out there with us for the rest of the show. Today's show, Tom Studio, we're going to look at how we can improve, and if you don't have one, then you may not care, but how we can improve our PTZ Optics PTZ cameras, assuming they're late Gen 2. Or no, I guess they've got it, the firmware for any Gen 2, whether it was early Gen 2 or late Gen 2, but it's different firmware. So we'll walk through that in just a second. And we're actually going to update the firmware on a camera live here on the show. So that's what we're going to do. I will mention that, what will I mention? Oh, heck, I'm not going to mention anything. Let's just do it, shall we? All right, so the first thing we need is we need to get the firmware and we need to get the directions. And so in order to do that, let's see, I think I've got a link here. Yeah, there we go. Let me just bring this in so that you've got it. And this is just my desktop. And I've pulled up the PTZ Optics website. And I'm just going to maximize this for a second so that we can see this tab here, the Resources tab. And when we hover over the Resources tab, we have options including, over here on the left, Firmware. So we're going to do the Firmware option. And that's going to take us to another page where we can get the firmware files, the change log, the upgraded instructions, the upgrade tool, and then the USB upgrade tool. So let's get the files first of all. So we'll go there. And we have a PT30X SDI. It's not NDI, but it is a G2. So let's get that, and we'll get that downloading. Oh, there it is right there. Sorry. We'll get that downloading right there. There we go. Looks like we got it twice. And let's go ahead and get a fresh copy of the upgrade tool, Windows version 2.8. I think they've actually updated version 2.8 to version 2.8, but I found that it works much better recently than it has before. So we've got those, and let's go ahead and find those in the folder. There we go. And we can, we'll just minimize that for now. And let's go ahead and, both of those are zipped, right? Yeah, so let's unzip that. I right-clicked it, and I'm going to extract all. And it's asking me, where do I want to put it? Well, you can just put it right in the downloads folder. That'll be fine. Okay, and there it is. So we'll just pull that to the side for a second. And let's go back to this firmware file, which is also a zipped file. And we're going to extract it. Boom. There we go. Okay. Now, the most important thing, I think, right here is the firmware instructions. Now, this is the firmware right here. That little file right there, that is the firmware. Disk image file. Not sure how it works or why it works, but that is the firmware file. But the firmware update instructions, I'm just going to double click them and drag them in because they went to another window. And these are really, really good and very accurate and detailed. And I'm going to let you read them at your leisure. And I'm going to do essentially what they say. And so the very first thing we have to do is find the update tool. So let's just drag this out of the way for a second. And we don't need that, so we'll get rid of that. We don't need that, so we'll get rid of that. And we don't need that, so we'll get rid of that. And let's bring this one up. And we've got the upgrade version 2. Oh, did we get the Mac version by accident? Yeah, we did. Okay, that wasn't very smart. Let's see if we can go back and get the correct version. Upgrade tool version 2.8. Yeah? Did I get the right one before and I just... Let's try again just to be sure. And we're going to extract it. It's going to open a window. Oh, when it says old Mac, it's talking about a Mac address. It's not talking about a Mac PC. That's a little confusing, isn't it? So we want to see, do we have a D4 or a DC? And I think that's going to be on the bottom of the camera. Let me pick up this camera right here for a second and see what we see. The options are a DC or a D4, and this one is a DC. You might be able to see that. Let me hold it in front of this camera right here and see. Yeah, you should be able to see it there. It's the MAC address right there that starts in DC, and that tells me which of the tools that I need to use. Okay, so let's put this guy right back here so you can see him. Why would it be a him and not a her? That's a good question, Tom. We'll have to find out the answer to that question, but we don't know right now. So let's go back over here, and we're going to use the upgrade new Mac DC. So I'm going to just go into that. And I really don't care about any of this stuff. What I care about down here is the one at the bottom, the upgrade. So I'm going to double click that, and that's going to bring up the upgrade tool, the window. And let me orient you to this a little bit. Search is in just a second. We're going to see all the different cameras on the network. Upgrade allows us to do our upgrade thing. Config we won't be using. It would allow you to set a fixed IP address. And then the backup we'll be using, and preview we won't be using. So let's go back to search and let's do a search. First thing that happens when we do a search is we get a Windows security alert that says Windows Defender Firewall has blocked some features of this app. It doesn't like this app. Well, I don't really care. I know who the app came from and I know what I want, so I'm going to allow access. So when I allow access, I can now come back and do a search and find out that we've got 2 cameras. And actually, you know what? We're not going to find this camera because it's not on the network. So let's take a second and we will plug in this little cable. It's going to be PoE, so let's plug her in here and turn her on. And PoE means, of course, power over Ethernet, and our little camera is going to do his little dance, and we'll hear a couple of clicks and a kind of a purr, and that's the lenses kind of resetting themselves and making sure they're all free internally. And so this camera should be now ready to be found out or to be found on the network. So let's go back to our network and do another search, and boom, sure enough, there it is, the last one on the list. It has a different IP address. In fact, this is the default IP address for the PTZ Optics cameras, 192.168.100.88. So before we do anything else, we are going to, well, I think we'll just leave it there. We'll leave it there for that. All right, so the first thing, and I can just right-click this and I get the same thing as I would on these top menus up here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to back up this camera. And so I've got the IP address 192.168.100.88, and I'm going to do a backup. And it's going to navigate me to a subdirectory in the tools, the new Mac DC, and that's fine. I'll just go ahead and leave it there. And when I come back to restore it later, it will go back there. All right, so it says it's timed out. Let's try again. Sometimes we have to do this a time or two. And we're not getting any news there. So let's go back. We'll just research again. There we go. And we'll right-click this one and see if we can back it up. And it doesn't appear to be working. You know, I didn't try this earlier. I thought, well, let's just try this. Let's try this the way anybody would try it, which is just to do it. And we'll see what happens when we just do it. So let's try again. So let's come back here and we're going to go to backup. And I think let's just try. Yeah, it says data.tar, so we're just going to leave it at that. I tell you what, let's put it on the desktop. That way we know where it is, and maybe it doesn't want to overwrite a file. And so there we go. Backup files, none, status timed out. Okay, let's try one more time before we just give up and say this didn't work. Huh. Well, let's double. It should back us up. We've got the upgrade tool for DC. We had the DC, right? Yep, double checked it. It is the DC version. And let's, oh, I know. Let's try, sometimes by trying type 2, that makes a difference. So we'll try that. Let's go back to search. Search again. Backup, type 2, and try backup. And we'll try it one more time. Let's see. Let's go to the desktop, and we'll make a new folder just for this. and we'll just talk. I'm trying to force it to back up. So we'll put it in a new folder and say it backed up and it timed out. This is a step that you don't want to skip, because when it loads new firmware, basically it erases everything that the camera ever knew. Now, this is a new camera, hasn't been used, but it also has some settings or firmware, different pieces of data that maybe have been stored that will be overwritten by the firmware or may be erased by the firmware, and so we need to restore these later. What I'm going to do is go ahead and go ahead and turn the camera off and turn it back on again and see if we can't get a better connection. And this is the kind of stuff that I get into when I'm updating, because I'm updating firmware all the time. PTZ Optics cameras, bird dog encoders, all those kinds of things, and even the PCs that we build. We're updating the firmware, which is the BIOS, and so sometimes these things just don't work right the first time. Sometimes there's a bug. I've already updated my PTZ Optics 20X that I use here in the studio as a second camera, and it updated just fine, no problems. Well, it didn't update just fine. It refused to take a firmware update. And then I realized I was trying to use the firmware for the 30X camera, not the 20X camera. So at this point, we haven't even gotten to that point, so we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. All right, so let's go back to that window, and we'll go back to the search, and we'll search again. And there we go. The 130 there is another PTZ Optics camera, and the 99, I'm not sure what the 99 is. That may be my printer or something like that, but we know that this one is the one we want. So we'll go to the backup. We'll do a backup, and we'll just try again there. And it timed out again. Well, if all else fails, let's see if the instructions have anything that we've missed. From the search tab, click the interface drop down, select the network type you want. Okay, that's the network we're on. We only have one network here. Click the search button and select backup. And then when you get on the backup page, select backup. It says occasionally the backup process will fail. When this happens, simply click backup again to begin the process. Well, let's just be persistent then. And it's hard to say if it timed out right there or not. We'll just do it again. We'll go back to type 1. See if that makes any difference. Okay, at least we had a little, I don't know if you saw it real quickly there, but it said something. Let's see if we can get it to say it again. Timed out. We'll back up again. Timed out. Back up again. Timed out. Got the right IP address. Okay, let's try something a little extreme. Well, let's see if their directions said anything about it. Occasionally, the backup process will fail. When this happens, simply click the backup again to begin the process. So let's download the tool again. Well, there it is right there. We downloaded it before and we didn't use it. So let's see. Upgrade tool. Extract all. Yep. Place the files in the destination. Yep. All right, let's exit that tool, and then we'll start it again. Old Mac, new Mac. Just double checking what we've got here. We've got the DC version. That's the new Mac. And we got the upgrade tool. And we're going to search, and it says Windows Defender, allow access. Search again. And there's our 88. We'll do a backup. Backup. Nope, timed out. Try again. Got to be persistent with this stuff because it doesn't always cooperate the first time. Let's go back and start this process again. So we'll search. There's 1088, and we want to back up. So we'll back up again. And again. And again. Anybody know any good jokes? Anybody know any bad jokes? What if I do a restore? Well, there's not anything there to restore from. Well, this is kind of interesting. Let's see. Yeah, we could set that. Let's go ahead and set it a fixed IP address. So we're going to leave it at .88. And we're going to set it. And when we set it, it's going to reset. Good suggestion, Tom. Let's try. Okay, I heard the click. And there's the purr. So let's search again. See if it comes up. There it is, .88. Back up. And aha. Hat tip to Jan on that one. So was that, the question is, was that part of the instructions that we didn't read? We'll have to look at that in just a second, but we'll come back to that because we wasted a lot of time here that we shouldn't have. All right, so backup success. That's great. So we'll come back over to search. We find our camera, and now we want to upgrade. All right. And the first thing we're going to do is turn over to MDT, and we're going to do a query just to make sure we're communicating with the camera, and we are. Then we're going to open and navigate to our files. So it was downloads, firmware. There's our firmware file. We're going to open that, and we are going to upgrade. Now, this process can take it can take a while. Sometimes it'll take 3 or 4 minutes. I've had some of them that took 20 minutes. And sometimes they will kind of appear to get stuck. For example, right now, this is at 85%. And it may stay at 85%. There was one firmware upgrade a while back that would stay at 98% forever. Forever. And again, thanks to Jan for pointing me in the right direction right there. All right, so we'll go back and we'll have a look here. We're still seeing that we are still at 85%. That's, there's nothing that appears to be going on in the camera. We can see our little lights are flashing over here, but the camera's not resetting. It's not buzzing or whirring or purring or doing anything to let us know that it's getting an upgrade to its firmware. It's just sitting there. If I were to unplug it or turn it off at this point, I probably would risk bricking it. So if you're doing this process and you have the capacity, the capability to do this with a battery backup, I would recommend it. Here in South Alabama, especially in the summertime, we have a lot of late afternoon thunderstorms, and so that's not a good time to do this firmware update process. But on a battery backup here, I feel a lot more confident. I've got the camera plugged in to a PoE switch, and the switch and the router are both on the battery backup. So we can see all of the activity that's happening here, and we are at 85%. Oh yeah. So it really does become a story of hurry up and wait. Obviously my mistake in not taking the step and updating the IP address. Looks like we're having a little activity here, so let's fade over to that. Oh yeah, camera, we're at 98%, and the camera is restarting. And we'll come back over here at 98%, and we'll see we're still at 98%. The camera's not doing anything different. It's just sitting there, lights blinking, and we're at 98%. The status says file verify succeed upgrading. Of course, that's what it said there before. So we have to take that kind of with a grain of salt and see if that's worth anything. Still at 98%. Still at 98%. The PTZ Optics does not do firmware updates that often. I would say originally, oh, here we go. We have some more activity here. Oh, we were just there. Yeah, you saw that. And we have some activity here. It says we're at 100%. Upgrade success. Okay. So let's go back to backup. We'll go to restore. We'll go to our same place and pick our data tar GZ, and we'll do an open on that one. And it says restoring. After saying that the backup file did exist, well, that's good to know that it thinks it exists. And the camera is resetting again as it restores itself. There was a click and a purr, and we have a restore success. All right. So now we have a camera that is 192.168.1.88 that has updated firmware. It has not been online that long. You can see I've got one that's been online for 28 days and one that's been online for 7 days. So let's go see some of the cool stuff that this camera will now do. Yeah, let's go here. There we go. So, oh, you know what? We better just double check the instructions. We better double check the instructions and make sure there wasn't one instruction that we should have done that we didn't do. Let's see. Firmware instructions. Yeah, let's go over there together. All right, so we did the search, we did the backup, we did the upgrade, we did the query, we did the open, and we did the backup again with the restore. And then, oops, that's the USB firmware update. So we've skipped ahead. So that's it. It says occasionally the restore process will fail. When this happens, simply click restore again to begin the process. So there we go. Let's do this. This camera right here, whoops, right here, I don't have connected to this PC other than over IP. I guess I could bring it in over IP. Let's do that. We know what the address is. So let's just add an input. It's going to be, let me show you what we're doing, just in case you've never seen this or want to do it in the future, you can. That's not what I want. Desktop capture, display one. Is that the one I want? Yeah, that's the one I want. Okay. So there we go. You can see kind of how we've got everything. It's going out to infinity. But I'm going to add an input. Let's just put this one up here so it is easier for you to not be distracted by all that other stuff. And since I've got my camera connected only via IP, I'm going to use the stream/SRT type of input. And so we'll just try to do it like this. So let's bring it in as an RT/192.168.1.88/1 is the kind of the PTZ Optics way of bringing that in. So let's see what that does if we do that. So yeah, there we go. So there's our camera. It is looking at the green screen right now. So let's go ahead and make control, see if we can't get control over it. So we'll go to PTZ and we'll do a PTZ Optics Visca UDP to 192.168.1.88. Can we connect? Yep, we're connected. And so we're going to spin it around. There we go. Ah, look at that. There we are. Now, lip sync on this camera, I don't know if you noticed when we added the camera, it added 300 milliseconds of latency. That's because of the network. So I would have to adjust my mic for 300 milliseconds. Well, let's just do that just for fun. So we'll get out of this for a second. We'll come down to my mic. We'll pull this up and let's add 300 milliseconds. There we go. So now I should be spot on. Now you saw that little flash just a second ago, that little pink flash, and that generally is an indication that I don't have enough buffer. So let's see if we can go in and change that a little bit. We're going to change that, and we're going to give it, let's give it a 500 millisecond buffer and see if that makes any difference. There's the one we were using before. We don't want to do low latency mode because if anything, we need more latency so that the screen doesn't mess up. Okay. So now we have 1080p, 5995, RTSP. We don't know what our latency is, but frankly, it looks like far less than 5. I wonder if I did 50 milliseconds on that thing. Let's check it. We'll do it again. Select that one. Yeah, it says 500 milliseconds. I'll be there. Goodness gracious. All right. Check 1, 2. Check, 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 check. Well, that might be 500 milliseconds now. So let's make our audio match. And there we go. All right, so we've got this camera here, and some of the new features on it are in the OSD menus. So to get to the OSD menus, we've got a choice. We can use the handheld remote. In fact, let's do the handheld remote. So I've got the remote right here. This is actually a remote from an older camera, but PTZ Optics has been pretty good about, kind of protecting legacy things. So this should work with this one. And I'm going to bring up a menu right there, and you can see it. Let's just sharpen this image right here so that everything on that appears a little sharper. There we go. And one of the first things that we know that we can change is we come down to PTZ here and turn on, well, it is on, speed by zoom. And what speed by zoom is really, really, really cool is our pan and our tilt will slow down the more zoomed in we are. So if we're zoomed all the way out, they'll run at normal speed, whatever that speed is. But when you zoom all the way in, normal speed on a pan and tilt at a closer object appears accelerated. Well, it is accelerated. It's the old pencil trick. I don't have a pencil here, but the base barely moves while the end part moves a lot. So what they've done is, based on where you are in your zoom, they're going to slow the speed of the pan and the tilt down accordingly. And I played with that the other day, and it really did work. It really did work pretty well. So let's go back out of this. I'm going to press the menu button here, and that's going to back us out of menu. And I think setup is the other area that we're looking for. Not sure if that, yeah, motion sync. Let's turn that one on. Yep, okay. And then focus limit is off. And if we turn that on, yeah, we've got infinity is the furthest part, and the nearest part is 1 meter. So we can adjust that and narrow our focal length. So let's go 1.5 meters. Well, let's go 2 meters. There we go. And our nearest position is going to be, yeah, 1 meter is the shortest. So we'll go out of that, and we'll go back again, and back again, and now we're out. So we can use the pan control. Let's go back into vMix now. And so we are going to go to the PTZ tab. And let's try zooming in. Let's move it so that it's looking at something a little bit more interesting than me. Yeah, there we go. And let's zoom all the way in. Let's see if we can get the clock. So we're going to zoom in on the clock as far as we can get. Okay, that's fully zoomed in. So let's see what happens when we do a pan. Well, that looks like it's panning pretty much full speed, but I don't think it really is. Fully zoomed in. That's how long it took to go from far left to far right. So let's zoom out. and check the same thing again. Well, that looks like about the same speed. Yep. Well, I wonder if it's any different with the remote control. That's the remote control going all the way to the right. And then let's zoom in all the way. Oops, that's not the zoom. That's the zoom. There we go. Okay, I'm zoomed all the way out. And let's go back to the left. Oh yeah, there we go. So now we're going very slowly. We'll have to see how to get that setting in vMix. We're going very slowly all the way back around to the left side. We're about a quarter of the way now. You get a great shot of my, what is that, my ceiling? Light fixture, yep, more ceiling. But as you can tell, it's panning a lot more slowly, so much that it really is, you're able to discern what it is. That's about the home position, at least in terms of panning, not tilting, but in terms of panning, that's about the home position right there. And we're going to come back around the rest of the way. We're about 2/3 from full right to full left. Now about 3/4. And it's looking at the green screen behind me. It's not catching a focus there quite yet because the screen is really all one color. Well, there you go. You saw a little wrinkle there. So we did have the ability to see part of that. That was me trying to get into the shot. Still panning all the way around. Still panning. Okay, that's the end of the pan. That's the end of the pan, and we can see that we are now back to the clock area. If we go all the way to the left at this point, excuse me, all the way to the right, you know, that's a quarter, that's a half, that's 3/4, that's full. So we are definitely successful, and that is home position right there. So there we go. So what I want to see next is, I'm able to do this with the remote control. I would bet that the web interface for the PTZ Optics camera would allow me to, I mean, it does allow me to control pan, tilt, and zoom, and that probably it would have the same effect as this. But it does appear that vMix, well, let's go into vMix for just a second. Well, we're right there. Let's take the speed all the way down on both speed and position. And I'm never really sure which these mean. So now let's go, wow. Now that's not focused in, that's just regular pan. But that's a significant improvement from what it was before. So let's go ahead and let's go back over here. Gee whiz, takes forever now. Let's see if we can move the speed up. Yeah, there we go. And then maybe position speed is something else. So let's zoom in on our clock again. And we'll zoom in. We're about, I would say, about halfway zoomed right here. Let's go a little more. Okay, and slow our speed down. And then let's see what a panning speed is. That's the panning speed. That's a significant improvement. Significant improvement. Now it's going to be interesting to see, and we can check it here in just a second, if a shortcut in vMix that moves the camera from point A to point B at a particular speed, if that shortcut will be honored. Let's go back here. That's back to, that was home position. And you saw that little flash again. That was the network kind of trying to catch up to the camera. Okay, there we go. Don't really need to hold that any longer. But let's make a couple of shortcuts in vMix. Might already have some in here, but we'll go ahead and put some new ones in. And I'm going to add one that is going to be the L button for left. And the function is going to be PTZ move left. And the speed is from 0 to 1. So let's make this 0.1. That's pretty slow. And then we need another shortcut to stop it. So we're going to add and find and use the space bar to stop it. So the function will be PTZ move stop. There we go. And oh, we forgot to pick out what the camera was on the last one. So let's go back and do that. There it is right there. Find L. And there is, there's L right there. And let's make that apply to that one too. Okay, so now we have a left at 0.1 and a stop. So let's go left. Ooh, that's pretty slow. And we'll stop. Now let's zoom in some more. Boy, that's scary, isn't it? Oh, you know, we gave it that meter, that zoom restriction. So let's go turn that off, because we really don't need that. Focus, oh, it was a focus limit. That's what it was. Focus limit is off. Okay. So let's see if that made a difference. That should bring me into focus. Or am I just too close for this lens? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just too close for the lens. All right. So let's go left some more. That's a nice little pan. We'll zoom in even more. And as we zoom, does that slow the pan? Appears to. And we'll zoom back out. And it's gone as far left as it can go. So let's send it back to home position, and we'll go left again. So that's left at zoomed out. And if we zoom in, obviously focus is going to be out of whack. The camera does not appear to be changing speeds at this point. So I think it is basically kind of set by vMix at the 0.1, and that's what it's going to do, because that's what we've asked it to do, and that 0.1 overrides the speed control. Interesting. Interesting. All right, we're going to stop that camera right there, and let's take our mic back to 50 milliseconds, because that's what we needed for this camera right here. There we go. And now we're back in sync on this one. So that kind of wraps up our test here We upgraded the firmware, but we had to make sure that we gave it a fixed IP address on our same network before it would take the backup. And you don't want to go and update the firmware, excuse me, without updating, without making a backup copy that you can restore afterwards. So we did that. We updated the firmware. It does make a difference in the panning and tilting, especially when you're zoomed in using the controller, or I'm guessing using the PTZ Optics web interface, which would be just the IP address of the camera. It appears that the vMix zoom, the vMix speed of panning at 0.1 compared to what I've used in the past does appear to be a little slower. But it does not appear that when you use the vMix, pan left at 0.1, that appears to not either override or just be ignored. Just ignore the internal setting on the camera when you zoom in tightly. It doesn't change the speed of the pan at that point. So that's good to know. I mean, that's, you want to know the restrictions of what you have and what you want to do. I will continue to play with this. I want to find out more about the focus limitation, and if there are other things that I've missed on this, I'll update you as time goes on. But if you have a PTZ Optics camera, a Gen 2, either early or late, and I think the way they determine the two differences is there was a kind of an early Gen 2 that was not PoE, and then the Gen 2s that I've referred to as late, but they really aren't late. They've been out there several years, that are PoEs. Xavier is asking, is their frames per second locked at 60 and not 5994? I think, and let me turn this camera off for just a second, and we can show you the legend on the bottom of the camera, which of course is upside down. So let's see if we can fix that. A little bit more cable. There we go. So you can see in the legend here that it's 60-50, 60-50, 60-50, 30-25, 30-25, ABC, and then DEF. So according to that, this camera does not have an option for 5994. But let's take that just one step further. And let's go into, do I have a window that I can hear? Yeah, here we go. Let's go back over here for just a second. And I'm going to bring in a blank tab that we can access the camera with. 192.168.1.88. That should be the camera. Oh, I guess it is helpful to turn the camera on. You're not going to get much camera without the camera on. Okay. All right, so that's what we want to see. We want to see this blank. Admin is the username and admin is the password. And you can save that. Yeah. And now we're going to go to the video settings and see if we have a frame rate Yeah. Looks like it's all just whole numbers on the frame rate. I don't think there's anything on the network page that has to do with frames or the information page. Yep. So it looks like we're just still at whole number frame rates at this point, Xavier. So there you go. It looks like they have not updated them. Now, I have got another camera here. Let's just, for the sake of argument, I'm going to go into that other camera. And I'll show you. And let's just make sure that we've got the same thing in the two different cameras. I think the one that we just updated is actually newer than this one. That is across the room. 192.168.1.30. Yeah, there we go. All right. And we'll go to the video tab. And the video tab says whole number 30. Yep. And this is actually an NDI. So yeah, let's see if NDI Studio Monitor, identifying that same camera, there it is right there, has any information for us. Yeah, it doesn't appear that it's got anything that tells us anything about that. So no help there. I seem to recall that PTZ Optics did do an update at some point that addressed that, but I don't remember what the update was, and I don't remember exactly how it, but it seems like perhaps it's been addressed. I'd have to check into it a little bit more closely to know for sure. Yeah. Yep. All right, guys. Well, looks like that took significantly longer, although it's because I'm an idiot and didn't update the IP address to match my network. So thank you to Jan for catching that. I appreciate you guys. Let's see, let's bring up our lower third here with a reminder that this will allow you to make a gift in Martin Steed's name. So I think you probably want to do that. You probably want to do that. You'll feel good if you do that. And you can kind of join with folks that knew him and loved him from literally all over the world. Yep. So I would encourage that. So I guess we have gone long. I apologize for those of you that hung in there with me to the bitter end. We have gone very long, but I appreciate you hanging in there with me. And we won't do a post show today because this has kind of been the post show as part of the show. But Thank you, and look forward to seeing you next week. We're going to hit the pink button, the other pink button. We have 2 pink buttons. Let me show you the 2 pink buttons. 2 pink buttons. Yep, 2 pink buttons. Here we go. Here are the 2 pink buttons. You can see one that says FTB Part 1 and Outro. Never mind what the labels are. The Part 1 is the intro, and the outro is the outro. So we're going to press the outro button. All right, you ready? That was kind of fun.